Hey everyone, Josh from Keystone Combs here. Thanks for following along with us so far. Thanks for watching our adventures. It's been a lot of fun, and I hope you're getting some entertainment value out of it as well. So today I thought I'd start off a video series talking about some different types of bees that we as beekeepers see in the beehive and that you'll most likely run into out in the wild. So we're going to start off today by talking about the lesser known drone bee. And all a drone is a male honeybee. What happens is when the worker bees are building honeycomb, it's almost always the same size. It's the pretty consistent for whether they're going to lay female brood, whether they're going to put pollen stores, capped honey, you name it. The honeycomb is almost always the same size, but towards the edges of the frame, sometimes that honeycomb gets just slightly larger than the rest of it. And a queen can sense that it's a slightly larger comb, and she'll lay an unfertilized egg. And the unfertilized eggs become male drones. So there's an interesting fact about male drones is that they have a grandfather, but they have no father. Since the queen was born with both male and female genetics, she came from male and female. She had two parents. She lays an unfertilized egg. Therefore, that egg only has the genetics of her. Whereas the female worker bees they get fertilized eggs, so they get both the genetics of the father and the queen. So basically, male drone bees, they have a grandfather, but they don't have a father. I hope I explained that well. It's kind of a confusing thing to try to put in few words. So that's an interesting fact. How do we tell the drones apart? Well, they're significantly larger. Their eyes is a really big giveaway. They pretty much meet at the top of their head, whereas the worker bees have a pretty normal split. So you can tell them right away. They're big, bulky eyes, big, beady eyes sticking out of their stupid little faces and their furry little bodies, and they're a lot larger. And their legs don't really have any hair on them because they're not foraging. They don't really need to pick up any of that pollen. So what's their purpose in life? So basically what happens is the point of the drones, being that they're male, their whole existence is to mate with virgin queens. Their purpose in life is to diversify the entire genetics of the bee population in the area. So what they'll do is they'll fly out of the hive and they'll get in these big clusters 20, 30, 40 feet off the ground, and they'll wait for the virgin queens to come out of the hives. And the queens can sense them, and they have very large eyes, as I previously stated, so they can kind of tell when the queen's coming, and I'm sure there's some pheromones involved, and there's probably a huge scientific explanation for why. So yeah, the virgin queens will fly into these big colonies, these big clouds of drone bees, and basically it's whoever can get closest first. And she'll mate with up to 20 drone bees that really diversify the genetics of the population. So the drone will mate with her, and then he dies. And that's pretty much his existence. You're born, you wait for some virgin queens to come along, you mate with one if you're lucky, and then you die. And here's the sad part. If you're unlucky enough to die during mating, don't worry, you'll be lucky enough to die and fall because the rest of the worker bees will throw your butt out of the hive because you're kind of a drain. You don't forage, you don't build comb, you don't clean, you don't throw out the dead bodies, you don't bring in water. Oh, and the worker bees have to feed you. So to the hive, if you're not mating, you're kind of useless. They will generate some heat for the brood, but that's about it. So yeah, kind of a sad life for a drone, but at the same time, it's their genetics that get to carry on. So not a bad way to leave your legacy. And it's definitely important for the bee population to have a diversified genetic pool, especially as beekeepers. Like it's really nice to have hives that show like gentle genetics. Like a gentle queen will run a gentle hive, and that makes them easier to work with. If you see some videos of these hives, like some Africanized hives, they just get crazy aggressive. They're super hard to work, and unfortunately, some of them have to be euthanized just because they're so out of control. Like my hives are in the yard. My bees are pretty docile. You don't want bees that are just going to come after you the second you get anywhere near their hives. Well, some some queens are pretty aggressive and they'll run a pretty aggressive hive. And as a beekeeper, that's not something that you necessarily want. Now, aggressive queens do make good honey, but we'll save that for another video. So anyways, that's a little bit on drones. I hope you've enjoyed it. Thanks for following along. If you like this sort of thing, feel free to subscribe to the YouTube channel. And if you have any questions or want to see a video on something specific, leave it in the comment section below. I'll do my best to get to it. So once again, thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time. That's what you call B-roll.